Hi, this is Mrs. Earl with another pre-algebra tutorial. Today's topic, solving two-step equations. Before I solve a two-step equation, I like to set up my paper with two halves. On the left I put solve and the right I put check. It's very important to always check your work to make sure you haven't made a careless mistake. I also like to draw in the ladder so that I make sure that I keep two sides of my equation balanced at all times. When I start the equation, I cover up the coefficient and pretend that it's a simple one-step equation. X plus 3 equals 17. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to subtract 3 from each side. Remember, my goal is to isolate the variable and get it by itself. 3 take away 3 is 0, so they cancel out, leaving me just the 7x on the left side of the equation. On the right, I have 17 take away 3, which gives me 14. The second step of the equation is to divide both sides by the coefficient of 7. 7 divided by 7 is 1, leaving the x by itself. 14 divided by 7 is 2. Which leaves me the answer of x equals 2. But now it's important to check my work to make sure I haven't made a careless mistake. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the 2 from my answer and I'm going to substitute it for the x in the equation. I'm now going to rewrite the equation. 7 times 2 plus 3 equals 17. Once again, I'm going to draw my ladder so that I make sure that I keep both sides of the equation balanced. 7 times 2 is 14 plus 3. 14 plus 3 is 17. Bringing down the 17 from the right-hand side, I see that my equation is indeed balanced. My second example, negative 6 plus 10, negative 6x plus 10 equals negative 50. Again, I'm going to cover the coefficient and draw my ladder. I'm now going to subtract 10 from each side of the equation. On the left-hand side, 10 take away 10 cancels out, they equal 0. And I bring down the negative 6x. On the right-hand side, I have a negative 50 plus a negative 10, which gives me a negative 60. I now have a one-step multiplication equation. To get the x by itself, I simply divide both sides by the coefficient, which is negative 6 in this case. Negative 6 divided by negative 6 is 1, or 1x. And negative 60 divided by negative 6 is a positive 10. Because remember, a negative divided by a negative is a positive. Once again, I'm going to check my work. I'm going to take the 10 and substitute it into this equation. When I rewrite it, I have negative 6 times positive 10 plus 10 equals negative 50. It's important when you copy the problem that you copy it exactly and not make a careless mistake. Negative 6 times 10 is a negative 60 plus 10. Negative 60 plus 10 is negative 50. And negative 50 does indeed equal negative 50, and I am correct. For my third example, you'll notice that the variable is on the right-hand side. Don't let that throw you. Again, draw your ladder, work on getting the variable by itself, and keeping both sides of the equation equal. So I come over to the right side and I see this take away 12, or negative 12, so I'm going to add 12 to each side of this equation. Again, I ignore the coefficient here that's with the x to start. Negative 12 plus 12 is 0, leaving me just the x divided by 2. On the left-hand side, I subtract and I get a negative 8. Now, it might help you to rewrite the division problem as x divided by 2 equals negative 8. The next thing I'm going to do is the opposite of divide by 2, which is multiply by 2. I show multiply by 2 by drawing parentheses and putting the 2 in front. Well, 2 times negative 8 is negative 16. 2 divided by 2 is 1, leaving the x by itself. And now I have my answer of x equals negative 16. Let's check this to make sure we haven't made any mistakes. Again, I draw my ladder, and I'm going to substitute in the 16 for the x. Right there. So now I have negative 20 equals negative 16 divided by 2, take away 12. In order of operations, negative 16 times 2, divided by 2, is going to give me negative 8. Negative 8 take away 12 gives me a negative 20. And that indeed does equal negative 20 from the left-hand side, and I am correct. Now, here are two problems for you to try on your own. Press pause, solve these two-step equations, and then press play to check your work. Right, now that you've solved the problems on your own, let's do them together. I begin by adding 15 to each side of the equation. Negative 15 plus 15 cancel out, leaving me the 5w by itself. On the right-hand side, I have 25. I now divide both sides by 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1w. 25 divided by 5 is 5. I then check my work by substituting in 5 times 5 minus 15 should equal 10. 5 times 5 is 25. 25 minus 15. 25 minus 15 is 10. They are indeed equal. In the last example, I begin again by adding 2 to each side, which gives me negative 8 on the left equals 2n on the right, because positive and negative 2 cancel each other out. I then divide both sides by 2. 2 divided by 2 is n. Negative 8 divided by 2 is negative 4. Finally, we're going to check our work one more time. Negative 10 equals 2 times negative 4. Take away 2. 2 times negative 4 is negative 8. Take away 2. Negative 8 plus a negative 2 is negative 10. And indeed, both sides of my equation are equal. I hope this helps, and check back again for more tutorials from Mrs. Earl. Happy problem!